Hello, BookTube. Hello, Tudorverse, and welcome back to the end of Tudortember. This final closeout video of the month. I had a wonderful, wonderful time, and I hope you did too. It was, interestingly, it wasn't all that different from what I typically do. I kind of knew it wasn't going to be. Even at the very beginning, it was a question of, well, why is this month different from all other months? What it boiled down to, well, was in this month, we post twice a week. And that was really it. In this month, we add Poetry Thursdays. I don't know that I'm going to continue regularly to do it, although obviously there are a lot of poets and a lot of the pressure will be off to try to figure out the four poems that I wanted to present that really were going to capture Tudortember in that nutshell. So maybe I'll do it here and there. I do want to get back to Tudor takes on larger booktube questions for like tags and things like that. So I'd like to get back to that. But the crazy thing that I want to do, and I probably should make, and I will be making a separate announcement for that. But at the end of this week, I leave for TudorCon. Yes, there is such a thing as TudorCon. If there can be a Comic Con, there can be a TudorCon. It is held at Agecroft Hall in Richmond, Virginia. Agecroft is an authentic Tudor mansion. The same way you can visit actual London Bridge in Arizona right now, you can visit the Tudor Mansion, several of them in Richmond, Virginia. In the 1920s, there were several old homes ready, stately manors ready to be demolished, and tobacco magnates purchased them and brought them over brick by brick and reconstructed them in the area. And that's where TudorCon is meeting, and they have some wonderful artifacts. And I will try to give a tour, take my little camera and give a tour and post that because they have some really great things. They have Elizabeth's original Great Seal, which is something that I had been looking for online and unable to find. I was able to find her second Great Seal. She replaced them in like I don't know, the 1570s or 80s, I'm not really sure. But I had never been able to find a photograph of her original one. And I was, turned around the corner and boom, there it was, kind of like when I was in Sudeley Castle in England and I turned a corner and came face to face with my Edward Seymour in a portrait that I had never seen before but recognized immediately. And that was wonderful because the only other photographs of Edward Seymour that I had were the kind of the Holbein one where he looked really sour, or the kindly elder statesman, and that was not at all the man I was writing. In the second half of Henry's reign, he was much more tortured than either of those portraits showed. But anyway, point being, I will try to post a video from Hcrop. Um, and then after that, I have a really crazy idea. So hear me out. Um, I'm not going to be speaking this year with my own separate topic. I've typically developed, I don't know, I've talked about Jane Seymour, I've talked about Edward, I've talked about Elizabeth, I've talked about a bunch of things. This year, I'm part of a panel about writing and publishing. And I've been trying to figure out what really I wanted to get across, especially right now as we come closer to November, which for I'm going to say 15 years because I've been doing this for quite a while, and actually it was longer than that if you really, but uh, National Novel Writing Month that I adore. That was an experience that I just did every year. I think it was the most valuable time I spent, and I loved it. And then it all blew up a couple of years ago. The initial impetus for that was reputed to be Pro Writing Aid and other generative AI companies coming to sponsor National Novel Writing Month. And because of that, or whatever the motivation, the executive director of Nano came out with a statement embracing generative AI and making it clear that people were not only entitled to use it as part of Nano, they were encouraged to use it. And if you disagreed with that, you were a classist and a few other ists that I don't remember. And that was kind of it. I had a real problem with that. I believe that the entire point of National Novel Writing Month is to challenge ourselves. And it's the difficulty of actually putting out 50,000 words in a month that makes it valuable. Um, their point was they wanted to make it easier for everyone to succeed. But that kind of ruined it for everybody. You're allowed to set your own goals. Okay. And one of their big things was, well, if you're a child, you're not going to be able to do it. And it's like, I did not want to hear that because, quite frankly, um, a child's chapter book is somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 words. And they should be writing one of those, not an adult novel. And if they're writing one of those, they're talking about 166 words a day. Challenge yourself appropriately. Challenge yourself. And if you can just get out of it with generative AI, that's not the experience that you're supposed to be going for. Um, the worst part was, and I think one of the reasons that I and so many others had this kind of violent reaction was because it came on the heels of a scandal the year before. And I was a little bit ashamed of myself for not leaving then. So you put the two of them together and that's it. And now NaNoWriMo is no more and it's not there. But I've started to get emails where Pro Writing Aid is now creating their own novel, November, and inviting people to come and write together and recreate the experience. And I went to look, and for me, it didn't recreate the experience because for me, best part of NaNoWriMo were the forums. Um, if you're in the middle of writing and you suddenly have a question and you don't want to slow down to research because you've got to get the words out, you could ask your question and people would just answer you. Or if you were in the mood to just look around, you could just go through other people's questions and answer them when you had an idea or an answer. I mean, things like it was like little things or big things. So the big one and the example I always use is my favorite posting or the first one that really blew, pulled me in was when somebody was just talking about, and it wasn't even Tudor, it was somebody was doing Midwest, there were prairie days, and they needed an excuse for a 25-year-old woman to go outside at 2 o'clock in the morning. And people are answering back, going, well, is she the lady of the house? Is she what's she doing? And there were it was the camaraderie, it was the community, and that's really what I missed. That's not in Novel November. Um, and what occurred to me, because I've asked my own questions. My big question one year was for Path to Somerset, and Henry had just found out about Catherine Howard's unfaithfulness, and he was holed up at Oatlands. And I'm like, what is the equivalent, the Tudor equivalent of eating ice cream from the tub? Turns out it was whale blubber, which would have required way too much explanation in order to actually use, so I didn't. But that was a fun thing, and I want to recreate that. So I am doing a Too Much Tudor writing month. My initial thought had been that this all came up because of the panel at TudorCon, and I was going to kind of check it out and see whether any of these people who presumably would want to write their own Tudor books. I mean, I think that's why they had us, why they created the panel, because if you are a Tudor fan, you have an idea of what you believe the story was, and you want to get that down on paper. So I was going to kind of test the waters and see what people were thinking. But as I sit here to do this video with the look back and look ahead, you know what? I'm gonna start it. You don't have to come write with me. You don't have to write the whole 50,000 words. If you are going to be doing, I can't say nano, if you're going to be doing, if you're going to be writing a novel in November, if you have any Tudor related questions, there's going to be a Discord server. And I will check the Discord server and answer questions. And I encourage anyone who wants to come along to also check out the Discord server and answer some questions and get stuff written. It is more fun to write together. I'm going to be doing this. I'll be talking more about it through October, and then in November. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I am planning on that. So there you go. Uh, Hope you'll come with me, and see you next month.